The moment Phyllis Summers walked into the GCAC bar, the air shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. But something changed. Because she knew exactly who she was about to face. And more importantly, she knew exactly what she wanted. Across the room, Cane Ashby stood alone, a glass in his hand, his jaw tight, his eyes distant. Still angry. Still broken. Still thinking about Lily Winters. Phyllis watched him for a moment. Then she smirked. Because pain like that. That was opportunity. She walked straight toward him, heels sharp against the floor, confidence radiating from every step. Cane didn't even turn at first. But he felt her presence, he always did. Still brooding, Phyllis said casually, sliding onto the stool beside him. Cane let out a slow breath. "I'm not in the mood, Phyllis." "Oh, I know exactly what mood you're in," she replied smoothly. "And trust me, I can fix it." That got his attention. He turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm not looking for whatever game you're playing." Phyllis tilted her head, pretending to be offended. "A game? No, this is real life, Cane, and right now your life is a mess." That hit a nerve. Cane's grip tightened around his glass. "Careful?" But Phyllis didn't back down. She leaned in slightly, her voice lowering. "You trusted Lily, you believed her. And she let you think your own family was in danger." Cane's jaw clenched harder. He didn't want to hear it, but he couldn't ignore it either. "Don't." Cane warned. "Oh, I'm going to," Phyllis shot back. "Because someone has to say it." What she did. That wasn't just a mistake, that was betrayal. The word lingered. Heavy, unavoidable. Cane looked away, trying to keep control, but it was slipping, because deep down, he knew she was right. Phyllis studied his reaction carefully. She could see the cracks, and she pushed further. "You know what the worst part is?" she continued softly. She didn't even hesitate. She chose to go along with Victor Newman's plan, knowing exactly what it would do to you. Cane slammed his glass down harder than he intended. Enough. But it wasn't enough. Not for Phyllis. "Why?" she challenged. "Because it hurts? Because it's true?" Cane stood up slightly, tension radiating from him. "I said enough." For a moment, it looked like he might walk away, but Phyllis reached out, grabbing his arm, not forcefully, just enough to stop him. "Wait." Her tone changed, softer now, more calculated. "I'm not your enemy, Cane." He hesitated. Just for a second, that was all she needed. "I actually defended you," Phyllis continued. "When I saw Lily, I told her exactly what she did was wrong. I didn't sugarcoat it." Cane looked at her again, suspicion still there, but curiosity creeping in. He asked. Phyllis nodded. Someone had to. There was a beat. A quiet pause where everything shifted slightly, because Cane didn't expect that. And Phyllis could see it. She leaned closer, lowering her voice again. "You've already cut Lily out of your life," she said. "You've already decided you're done. So why are you still letting her control how you feel?" That question landed hard. Cane didn't answer immediately. Because he didn't have one. Phyllis smiled faintly. "That's what I thought." She sat back, crossing her legs, completely at ease. "You're free now," she added. "No expectations, no guilt, no one to disappoint." Cane shook his head slightly. "It's not that simple." "It is," Phyllis insisted. "You're just making it complicated because you're used to putting her first." Silence again, but this time, it was different. Because Cane wasn't pushing back as hard, and Phyllis noticed. That was her opening. "And you know what else?" She continued, her tone shifting again, this time more playful, more dangerous. "You don't have to worry about what Lily thinks anymore." Cane exhaled slowly. "Phyllis, no, listen," she said, cutting him off gently. "You can do whatever you want now." She let that hang in the air, then leaned in just a little closer. "With whoever you want." Cane's eyes met hers. And for a split second, something flickered. Something familiar, something risky. Phyllis saw it. "We had something," she reminded him softly. "Don't pretend we didn't." Cane looked away again, because that part was dangerous. "Bad timing," he muttered. Phyllis laughed lightly. "Timing is everything, and right now, The timing couldn't be better. He didn't respond. But he didn't walk away either, and that told her everything she needed to know. She had him exactly where she wanted him. Not fully, not yet. But close, very close. Phyllis reached for her drink, taking a slow sip before setting it down again. Then she said the one thing that changed everything. There's more. Cane frowned slightly. What does that mean? Phyllis met his gaze directly. It means, this isn't just about us. Now she had his full attention. Then what is it about? Cane asked. Phyllis said, revenge. The word landed between them like a spark, instant, dangerous, unavoidable. Against who? Cane asked even though he already knew. Phyllis didn't even blink. Victor Newman. Cane's jaw tightened again. Because that name, that was a trigger, always had been. Phyllis leaned back slightly, watching him carefully. He played you, she said. He used your emotions, your family, everything. Cane didn't deny it. Because he couldn't. And he did the same to me, Phyllis added, her voice sharpening. He tricked me into signing Chancellor back over to him. I didn't have to. But he made sure I thought I did. Her eyes flashed with anger now, real anger, and I don't like being played. Cane looked at her, something shifting behind his eyes. Because for the first time, their anger aligned. Phyllis noticed immediately, and she smiled. Slow, satisfied. So here's the question, she said quietly. Are you going to sit here and keep thinking about what Lily did, or are you finally going to do something about what Victor did? Cane didn't answer right away, but this time, it wasn't because he disagreed. It was because he was thinking, really thinking, and that was exactly what Phyllis wanted. Because the moment Cane stopped looking back and started looking forward, everything would change, and she was going to make sure of it. Cane didn't speak right away, but the silence wasn't resistance anymore, it was calculation. His eyes drifted to the bar, then back to Phyllis Summers, and this time there was something different in his expression. Something sharper. What exactly are you suggesting? Cane asked slowly. Phyllis didn't rush her answer, she let the moment breathe. Because she knew this was the turning point. I'm suggesting, she said calmly, that we stop reacting and start controlling the game. Cane's gaze hardened slightly. Victor's not someone you just control. Phyllis smirked. Everyone can be controlled, Cane, you just have to know where to apply pressure. That confidence. It was dangerous. And somehow, convincing. Cane leaned back, studying her now instead of pushing her away. You've thought about this? Phyllis gave a soft, almost amused laugh. Oh, I don't just think, Cane, I plan. She leaned in again, lowering her voice. Victor believes he's untouchable, that's his biggest weakness. Cane's eyes narrowed. He's survived worse. Exactly, Phyllis said quickly, which means he's predictable. He thinks he's always 10 steps ahead. That's what makes him sloppy. That caught Cane off guard. Because it made sense. And he hated that it made sense. Phyllis saw it. She saw the shift. And she pressed harder. You want revenge, she continued. You want closure? Then stop playing by his rules. Cane exhaled slowly, and start playing by yours. Phyllis smiled. By ours. That word lingered. Ours. A partnership. An alliance. Something bigger than just anger. Cane looked at her carefully. Why me? Phyllis didn't hesitate. Because you have something I don't. And what's that? Nothing left to lose. The words hit harder than anything she'd said before, because deep down, Cane knew it was true. His relationship with Lily Winters was shattered. Trust? Gone. Future? Uncertain. And the one person responsible for pushing everything to the edge? Victor Newman. Cane clenched his jaw. I'm not interested in becoming like him. Phyllis shook her head. No one's asking you to become him, I'm asking you to beat him. There was a difference, a big one, and Cane felt it. For a moment neither of them spoke. The noise of the bar faded into the background. All that mattered was this conversation, this decision. Phyllis broke the silence. You said you were done with Lily, she reminded him, so be done. Stop letting her choices define yours. Cane's voice was quieter now, easier said than done. Phyllis softened slightly. I know, And for a brief second, that wasn't manipulation, that was real, but it didn't last. Because Phyllis never stayed soft for long, but that's exactly why this works, she added. You channel all of that pain, all of that anger, into something useful. Cane let out a bitter laugh. Revenge is useful, in this case. Phyllis said without hesitation, absolutely. She reached for her glass again, swirling the drink slowly. You don't just get even with Victor, she continued, you take back control of your life. Cane stared at the table, thinking, weighing, fighting himself. Because part of him wanted to walk away, to let it go, to be better, but the other part, the louder part, wanted payback. Phyllis leaned closer again, her voice almost a whisper, and I can help you do it. Cane looked up. And what do you get out of this? Phyllis smiled, besides the obvious satisfaction. She paused, then added more seriously, I get my power back. That was honest, more honest than anything else she'd said. Victor humiliated me, she continued. He manipulated me, he made me look like a fool. Her eyes darkened. I don't forget things like that. Cane studied her carefully, because now, this wasn't just about him, this was personal for her too. And you think teaming up with me fixes that? He asked. I know it does, Phyllis replied confidently. Another pause, another shift. Because now, they weren't just talking, they were negotiating. Cane exhaled slowly. And what exactly does this team-up involve? Phyllis's smile widened just slightly. Business first, she said smoothly. We find the cracks in Victor's empire. And trust me, they're there. And then we exploit them. Cane nodded faintly. And the other part? Phyllis tilted her head. What other part? Cane gave her a look. You know exactly what I mean. She laughed softly. Oh, that part. She leaned closer again, her tone dropping, becoming more intimate. Let's just say, we don't have to keep things strictly professional. There it was, clear, direct, unapologetic. Cane didn't react immediately, but the tension between them, it shifted again, because now this wasn't just about revenge, it was about temptation. Phyllis held his gaze. You don't have to pretend with me, she said quietly. You don't have to hold back. Cane's voice was low. And you think that's a good idea? Phyllis didn't even blink. I think it's inevitable. The word hung in the air, heavy, charged, dangerous. Cane looked away for a moment, trying to steady himself, because he knew exactly where this could lead. And part of him wanted it. That was the problem. Phyllis watched him closely, reading every micro-expression, every hesitation, every internal battle, and she knew he was close. Very close. So what's it going to be? She asked softly. Cane didn't answer right away. He looked at his drink, then at the bar, then finally, back at her. And when he spoke, his voice had changed. Less guarded, more resolved. I'm not making any promises. Phyllis smiled instantly, because she didn't need promises, she just needed a yes. That's fine, she said smoothly. I don't need promises. She leaned in one last time. I just need you to be willing. Cane held her gaze, and after a long heavy pause, he gave the smallest nod. That was it. But it was enough. More than enough. Because in that moment, the line had been crossed. Phyllis leaned back, satisfied. Good. She said quietly, because now, everything was in motion, an alliance built on anger, a partnership fueled by revenge, and a connection that was already starting to blur the lines between business and something far more dangerous. Cane picked up his glass again, but this time, he wasn't drinking to forget. He was thinking about what came next. And somewhere deep inside, that anger he'd been trying to control, it wasn't fading anymore. It was growing. And Phyllis, she had just given it direction. As the two of them sat there side by side, one thing became clear. Victor Newman wasn't the only one playing a dangerous game anymore. Now, Phyllis and Cane were in it too, and this time, they weren't planning to lose.